Okay, okay, it says start streaming and full screen.
Nice.
Okay, so let's see if we are live. Checking the phone. Okay, it is live, but my
Hi.
ring light just went out again. Okay, I think we're just gonna go with it. Um, Gosh, it's so dark though. You think it's okay? Should we just go with it?
It's all good.
Okay,
All good.
all good. All right, so hello,
Hello.
hello, Cristina.
Hi,
Um,
Pastor.
Welcome to the first episode of Say Yes to You. And this is on the brand new You Are Your Own Hero YouTube channel. And so this is very exciting. And I am Dr. Tassel, and I am joined tonight by the amazing Cristina. And you look so lovely with the beautiful flowers in your hair. I love it. So
Thank you.
we're gonna, I think, start tonight by just reading our mission statement, and then maybe we can just do a short intro of of ourselves, and then we'll get right into this amazing topic of living the life you want. Who doesn't want to live the life you want, right? It's a great topic.
Right?
Right. Okay, so our mission statement for this show is to empower ourselves and others in living authentically, in living consciously, in living the lives that we really want to experience, the lives of our dreams. And tuning out the external voices, societal programming, and outside directives, and tuning into our heartfelt desires, values, purposes, beliefs, visions, as well as our own guidance. To always say yes to ourselves first, to always be our own best friend, to always privilege and honor our own internal voice and direction. So we're saying yes to ourselves.
Yes.
So, Cristina, would you like to just maybe say a few words about yourself and why saying yes to you is a thing? Why is this important to you?
Hi, my name is Cristina. I don't think I've been telling myself in a way, yes. You say yes to a lot of people around you. Yes, yes, I can do this, and then you end up saying no to yourself. I lived in Romania until 8 years ago, and maybe just the society and how things are, and being a hierarchy, you are the child and you say yes. So I lived in a way with an internal fire, but then not really knowing that it's okay to say yes to my own fire. So I lived more saying yes to the my external life, from my parents to school to just my society and how I lived. And in a way, it disconnected me from myself, from my inner voice. And I realized that I was saying no. And it's very hard to live your life like that.
Yes, it sounds like something is saying yes to you on your computer.
Yes. Repeatedly.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So, what do you think? helped you learn to start saying yes to yourself?
When I started not being happy, of being sad and going into what seems like a depression, and not having a almost like an internal voice, but then not really knowing that I was not listening to my inner voice. So it's living a regular life, going to a job and doing the best you can and saying yes to all your environment. And then I started not being happy, but I didn't really know why. And I would say that the more I connected with myself, and through journaling and giving myself a voice, I realized that I was living a life like a zombie.
Oh my goodness. I love that term. Totally can relate. Yes. Life as a zombie.
Almost like you're being programmed.
Yes.
And it doesn't feel like an authentic life.
Totally. Awesome. Thank you so much for just a little background about yourself and why this is so important to you. And I'm going to just echo very similar sentiments that you've so beautifully expressed. So my name is Dr. Tassel. And basically, I said no to myself for most of my life. No to my own dreams. No to my own intuition and guidance. No to my own feelings, not feeling my feelings. No to my own values, even to an extent. I basically just kept saying no all the time to what really was important to me. And I use this word, it's kind of a dramatic word, but I use the word catastrophic. There were catastrophic results to continually saying no to myself. And I found myself eventually in a life that was completely out of alignment with what was important to me and who I really was. So I was in a very unhappy marriage. I did not have a career. This is before I went back to get my PhD. I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer. I had so many relationships that were really not serving me. And I was extremely depressed, and really at times did not want to live, to be totally honest. So like you, my dear friend Cristina, I am so passionate about saying yes to myself and for all of us to really have that as a practice, to say yes to ourselves first, always. So tonight, for this first fabulous episode about living the life that you want, we're really going to talk, I think, about maybe first of all, how to tune out all these other voices that are constantly coming into us, whether they're from societal voices, our parents, maybe when we're younger, or even as we're older, our parents can still, hold sway over what we do. Our loved ones, our spouses, our partners, our friends, and then just all of the programming that we've grown up with about how we should be, especially as women, in our lives. So I want to just first ask you, because I think you're so amazing at really following your heart and your guidance. And so I want to ask you, Cristina, how do you tune out all the noise, all the interruptions that's not your guidance? How do you do that?
First, I invite awareness. So maybe in that moment, I could tend to say yes to the external, but then there's an awareness, an internal awareness that almost like says no while you're thinking to say yes, and kind of questions, but you don't really want to do this. Why you're saying yes. And so I kind of bring in that awareness of, oh, what is my internal voice? What is that inside communication? And then I just kind of follow that, and I take that as my inner guidance. And then I'm sorry. So you say no to your external world, but then you end up saying yes to yourself.
Yes. And
that'll be one of the first practices that I do. But I didn't always do it. I was pleasing.
Yes. Does it feel like for you that as a woman, even starting off as a girl, that there's almost this entrainment to be pleasing to others?
Yeah.
Obviously starting with our parents.
At least from my experience, I don't even know that I'm allowed to have a voice.
Yes, exactly.
Be a good girl.
Yes.
Behave.
Yes.
Sit here, sit on the chair. Like, almost like, don't make too much noise.
Yes.
Be quiet.
Yes.
Be composed.
Totally. Be
a good girl. So I think we can, at least that was my experience. And it seems like that was kind of your experience too.
Yes, I so resonate with that. I so resonate with you saying, like, I didn't even realize I could have a voice. That was totally my experience too. It was like, basically we were muted, like on TV or something. That was not a thing to have a voice. It was the parental directives were what was going to happen. And then when you went to school, the teacher's directives, that's what was going to happen. And I think we probably, you and I and many others, we just learned, we didn't even try to have a voice after a while, right? Because we just learned to shut it down. And
there's this...
Yeah, and I think...
authority that it's almost like keeping you.
Yes, exactly. We grew up with just living with an authority over our lives, that we did not have a say, we did not have a voice in our own lives. Yeah, it's crazy. It's really intense.
And then as a child you think that, like, your parent, and I know, like, our parents did our best.
Yes, and they were just, to a certain extent, trained in the same system as we were, and were doing what they thought was best for us. So it's, it's this process of reclaiming, of finding our voice now. And I don't know about for you, but for me, it's still an ongoing process. There are many layers to it of going within and finding that voice and reclaiming it and using it and speaking it. So I'll just answer the same question real quick about this first aspect of what we're talking about tonight, of how I tune out all the noise. I'm still learning how to do it. I'm still fine tuning it. It's just absolutely an ongoing practice for me. I'll share a little anecdote of a turning point for me about what we're talking about. And this was maybe about 5 years ago, when I was going through a very acrimonious, very difficult divorce with my now ex-spouse. And thank goodness we've done a lot of healing, and we have a good relationship now. But back then, it was a shit show, just to be honest. It was really, really intense. And so I was going through this very difficult divorce. There was a huge custody battle with my ex-spouse over our children. That was extremely stressful and devastating. And I was living in Tennessee, where we had just recently moved before we were divorcing, and I didn't know a soul. So I felt completely alone. And I was writing my PhD dissertation, this autoethnographic work on my life, and I was really getting into a lot of trauma that I hadn't yet really dealt with. So it was like the Tower card in the tarot. Just people were jumping out of burning buildings, and it was just, a catastrophe. It felt like a catastrophe. And I remember my father was staying with me at the time, and he was talking to my mother on the phone in this rental house that I had fled to during all this crazy divorce business. And I overheard my father say to my mother, "Oh, Tassel's doing fine. Tassel is fine. Everything is fine. She's doing fine." And something rose in me. It was the truth. The truth rose in me. And I was very used to being pleasing towards my parents and saying to them what I thought they wanted to hear, because that's how I was kind of raised. And in that moment, I don't know exactly why, but the truth rose up. And I went into the room where my dad was, and I said very loudly, "Tassel is not okay. My life is a disaster right now. Everything is horrible. I want to jump out of my life. It is across the boards an absolute disaster. I am not okay." And that was a huge turning point for me, to speak the truth and to not let this pressure of other people's expectations or desires,
You're fine.
yeah, of what they wanted to hear, maybe, affect me. And I feel like, to me, that was a real start of me using my throat chakra more honestly. And I think it took such a dramatic situation for me just to, in other words, I was so fed up with my life, it didn't even matter what I said. If my parents were furious with me at that point, it didn't matter. My life was so catastrophic. So it kind of brought me to that point where I was just like, it doesn't matter at this point. I'm going to tell the truth at the very least.
I'm curious, how did they reacted? Because that was not something that you would normal do or say.
It was not something I would ever normally do, because that usually was not received very well in my household. I think they were shocked. I don't think either one of them actually said very much. I think they were kind of in shock that I was speaking so bluntly and honestly. Yeah. But that was a great moment for me. The way I see it is that was a moment where I started to take my power back. And to me, being in my power has so much to do with being in my truth. I think there's a lot to being in your power, but a real foundational piece for me is to start that I'm in my truth with myself, that I internally am living in my truth and seeing the truth and not putting rose-colored glasses on, which is what I did for many, many decades in my life. So I start for me with my inner truth, and then as it feels appropriate, in as loving a way as possible, express my truth externally as well. Yeah. Do you have a defining moment like that for you, or what's your experience with that? Oh my goodness, I think you just froze. Hopefully you will come back. And you look really beautiful. Oh, she's back. Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Sorry.
As you were sharing your story, I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, like, where was my defining moment? And I can recall in a way, me just still going to college and me wanting something more. So I applied for the work and travel program. So I always lived in Romania, and then I was able to come in USA, which first time it was in Virginia Beach, Virginia, with a work and travel program. And you have, as long as you're in college, your English is good, you get the summer job, and then you get to travel. So I saw it as an amazing life experience. So I told my parents, they said yes, and I was so independent. So I'm an only child.
Oh,
that
okay.
first
I didn't know that.
summer
Yeah.
was me saying yes to everything.
Yes.
And I didn't even do anything crazy. Like the parents could think, oh my God. But it was just very freeing, extremely freeing, a sense of independence that I haven't really felt it. It was almost like responsibility, but also freedom and excitement. And I was working multiple jobs and meeting a lot of people and going to different parties and then and just traveling and going to different amusement parks. But it was a very beautiful experience of kind of finding my voice and kind of saying yes to me, to my own excitement, but also a different kind of world. And then things shifted. So like the summer ended, and then things shifted, and then I went back home, and it could have never been the same.
Yeah.
Almost like being a good girl, listening, almost like being not questioned, but in a way, oh, I'm going back. I want their freedom again, because it felt like, in a way, like my parents are very loving, but in a way, because I'm an only child, very nurtured, loving, but then also in a way kind of like, don't go.
Yes. We need you.
Go.
We love you and we need you. Please don't leave.
You're precious and don't go.
Yes.
So then I kind of, with the taste of that freedom, I went the second summer. And then on the third summer, I didn't go back.
Oh my goodness. So the third time that you visited America, then you just ended up staying?
I ended up staying.
Wow. It's so interesting that you tell this story, because I have a very similar experience. the first time I went abroad, I lived in Japan for a year. And this was the first time I really had been away from my parents and American society. And just like you said, it was amazing. I think it was probably one of the first times I really started to just get in touch with my own self and what I liked. And it was another big turning point for me, was living abroad. So I think we could just both recommend that to anybody if you have that opportunity. Just it's such a great way
get out of
to
your comfort zone.
Yes, and it's such a great way to like literally physically remove yourself from the societal programming and even like see it from a distance. And when you're living in a foreign country, you're not really subject to the same societal rules of that country because you're a foreigner. So I was living in Japan and I was just this American. I felt like I could kind of do whatever I wanted. There were really no societal that's just like a great hack to move yourself out of societal programming. It's just go to a foreign country. That is awesome. It's cool that we both had that experience. Okay, so let me just check what is going on our stream. Okay, we do have a viewer, which is exciting. So I want to also ask you, how do you tune in to your inner voice, to your guidance? So we just talked a lot about tuning out all the external voices. What works best for you to really get into your inner guidance?
Usually it's kind of breathing. So like focusing more on my breathing, my active breathing, and not so much my rational mind. Yes. And then the best guidance that I do get in like it's for journaling. So it's almost like asking a question and then kind of just writing down, and then I kind of have a direction. Oh, this is, so in a way my mind could, like, if I'm thinking about it, my mind would like rationalize it. Oh, this is the path. This person could get upset. Play it safe. Say yes to them.
Yes.
And then for journaling, that's kind of like my truth comes out.
And I'm really curious, do you, because I don't journal that much, and it's great to just learn from you. When you journal, do you write down a question that you want to be answered?
I invite my kind of like my higher self and my team of guides and anybody that is on my team. Hey, God and angels and guardian angel.
Anybody who's available, come on in.
Come on in. And then I kind of bring in that question or that struggle. I'm struggling with this emotion. I'm confused about this. And or if I have a question about making a decision that rationally I think I'm making a good decision, but then I'm still like, it's something internally doesn't fit well or it feels good.
Yeah.
But then I can't really pinpoint it.
Yeah.
And then for just asking the question, hey, this is the part that I'm confused about. I don't know what to do. There's always a guidance that just comes in, and then I don't think, I just write. Or I write what my guidance is kind of saying, and usually it's the opposite of what my rational mind is saying.
Oh my gosh. So you literally just write the question out, And then, like, immediately you'll feel kind of the words coming through you for the answer.
Yeah, it feels like it's, even though it's me writing, it feels like it's not really me writing.
Yes.
But then I don't remove the pen, and sometimes I write like 4 or 5 pages. Like I just write until it's kind of done, until
Yes.
almost like the message is done.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very short, and sometimes it's a little bit longer. But it's always very, very supportive. And then it's almost like, hey, if you choose, almost like, because you can think in your mind and in your head, but then it's almost like the pros and cons list, but then you run the pros and cons list in your mind. But then once you have it on paper, you're able to see it. So it's almost like going through the options. If you choose this, because there is free will, you can choose any path to say yes to somebody else and say no to yourself. But it's almost like, hey, if you go this path, this is kind of what will happen. And if you choose the other path, this is what will happen. So then you're able to kind of make a decision based on where things could lead.
Yeah.
And I think it's an amazing practice. At least that's, like, for me, it has been a very, very good practice.
And is it something? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Of not pleasing somebody else, and then that's kind of like where my confusion can come in. And
oops, we have frozen again. I don't know if you can still hear me when I'm talking, but you did come back the last time, so I think you will come back this time. And this is so interesting, and I want to ask you if this practice is something that has kind of expanded over time for you. But I'll have to wait till you come back. Oh shoot, what just happened? Oh, there she is. Hi, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, did you have to come back in?
I was still streaming. I don't know what happened.
I think we're still streaming. Yeah. I think we are still streaming.
Okay. Just logged me out and logged me back in.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure.
We'll figure all that out. This is our first run, and it's going very well, all in all. I want to ask you real quick, this journal practice that you do, in the beginning, like, did it take some time to establish such a stream coming through? Like, did you start out
yes,
with, like,
definitely.
maybe a little trickle of information?
I think it started like almost like 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh, okay.
After I was in an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
I went to therapy, and the therapist asked me, hey, you should journal.
Oh, okay.
Kind of process your emotions. And then it's very interesting because I found a couple of the papers from my from the old journals.
Yeah.
And there was this guidance that would like come in, but then I would question it, almost like there's something like a sprinkle of like positivity or something that didn't, like, it was almost like when you like write a letter and it's like very negative, and then there's like a sentence that's positive, and I'm like, who wrote this? Like, this is like, who said this? So it kind of scared me in a way, and I didn't really pay much attention to like that guidance. But then it's interesting to kind of look back and kind of see it, that there was this guidance trying to speak, but then I was not really listening. So it's definitely it's a practice that has been improving as I have been continuing.
Yes. I think that's such a great point for all of us, that the guidance coming in whatever way it does is just something that seems to continue to evolve. It's something that develops almost like a muscle. If I were to answer the same question,
Yeah, what about for you? I'm curious.
I have a lot of.
What's your best practice?
I know I have a lot of different practices to get my guidance, because I'm so like, I always want as much guidance as possible, you know. And I'll just kind of list a bunch of different practices that I use, and maybe I'll just talk about one of them. I started going into the Akashic Records, which you and I have done together. And I started doing that during my divorce because I just was like, I need as much intel from the other side as possible to get through this. So that was such a motivator for me. And originally I went to someone, an Akashic Records reader who would go in for me. And then over time I started doing it myself. But that has been really helpful. And then I also love shamanic journeying. That's a newer practice for me that I really love. Also just sitting down and closing my eyes and just asking for guidance is really helpful. And what seems to happen now is it kind of just flows through like throughout the day now. I think now I can discern what is guidance and what is my thinking mind, but it's definitely taken me a long time to get there. And the way I kind of see it now is when things just pop into my mind sort of out of nowhere, even about a topic I might not even have been thinking about, and it's like a really good idea or a really good insight, I'm like, that feels like my guidance. I think that's my guidance. But just to make it super simple, I think my number one guidance that I use is like feeling things through my heart and just feeling a screaming yes and really like an elated feeling about something. And that's what just now I really rely on to go through life. I just really tune into how I feel about anything that I'm considering doing. And if it feels good, if it feels exciting and enlivening, then I really just take that as my guidance, that's the path to go on. And another fun thing that happened with you is I now also see what people say to me sometimes as guidance. Like for instance, 6 months or so ago, you came to me and you said, "Hey, Tassel, can you put together a training program for some of the work you do?" And I really felt that inside that was spirit kind of giving me guidance to go that path. Not to say that everything people say to me I take as guidance. It just, you can kind of just feel it if it feels like guidance. But yeah, I think guidance it comes in lots of different ways. It's so fun, so exciting to feel your guidance, right? It's like the best thing ever. Your GPS, I love it so much.
You're listening, and you're connecting more with yourself, and the more, and it's almost like baby steps of like a baby. Like you don't start walking right away. You kind of take a step, maybe you fall down, and then you take a couple more steps, and then eventually you start walking. So I see almost this practice of tuning in to your inner guidance, to your own voice, and saying yes to you, and that screaming internal yes.
Yes.
It's being persistent and then continuously trying it. And the more you tune in to it, the more it's coming through different ways. Maybe it's an image that you get,
Yes.
I know when we talk about the plans of the retreat, I always can visualize this fire and like people dancing around it
Yes.
and having fun around it. So
Yes.
it's almost like this will manifest, like I'm seeing it.
Yes.
So it can come through an image that you get that gets you excited, or through a message that you send to somebody that you feel very excited, and then it's very interestingly that the other person like sees it like with you, like you saw it as guidance, and I'm pretty sure like kind of guidance and spirit was talking to me, hey, you need to deliver, because I was so excited about it, like
Yes.
she needs to do this. So so it can come through other people.
Yes.
It can come through maybe a message, or like on Facebook, like a meme, or like just
Yes.
a couple of words that you read that feel very resonant.
Yes. It's almost like just something like pops out at you. Like you can't even really articulate what it is, but you can just tell like, oh, this seems important. Or like, it seems like I'm supposed to notice this. Even sometimes, I don't know if you have this experience, like when I'm driving and I see different signs on the highway or whatever, certain words sometimes just seem to like pop. And they often seem to have like a certain meaning. And I just want to say, for me, I did not grow up like this at all. I did not even know this term guidance, this word. Really probably before like 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even less, I did not ever talk about or think about my guidance. I think I was aware that there was a certain voice in me that I think I was usually suppressing. But this is all fairly new to me. Even, tuning into my guidance. And I also want to say that I think you said this a bit just before, that it seems like the more you honor your guidance and trust it, the more it seems to kind of come in. And sometimes I use this mantra. I would use this in the Akashic Records a lot when I was starting to go in, and I was like, is this really real? And I would just say, I believe, I'm willing to receive. And it seemed like that just would kind of like open the channel more. And, just like as an energy practice, like whatever you're believing is, you're going to give energy to that, and it's going to help bring it in. So yeah, guidance is just such a fun topic. It's just so fun to feel like direction. It's very magical.
Yes, and it's almost like a direction that can be towards maybe your career or your purpose. Maybe you want to be a musician, or you want to be a lawyer, but then your parents want you to be a doctor, and then internally I cannot be a doctor, or I cannot be a lawyer, I want to be a musician. So it's almost like that the fire inside of you is kind of telling you, no, that's not the path for me.
Yes. And it's like, I always tell my clients, or even anyone I'm talking to, if I say anything, I always say, run it through your own guidance. Whatever I'm saying, just filter it through your own guidance system to make sure that it's resonant for you. So, okay, so just to recap, we've gone over 2 points so far about how to live the life you want. And the first point was, it sounds a little harsh, but tuning out all the external voices, all the programming. And then number 2, tuning in to our own inner guidance. And then I think we'll maybe cover one last point tonight. And maybe that point good. Is like self-love, or is that a good third point? Is that our third point?
Yeah.
And I want to just say, and I want to ask you too, I'm still, again, fine-tuning these practices myself. Um, and like this idea that I really love is about like being your own best friend first, before you're best friends with anybody else, is really and this is something that I'm just really still learning how to do, to be honest. But to me, that's kind of like a tangible way to think about self love. Because sometimes I'd hear like self love, self love. It sounds great, but I'm like, how do I do that? What does that actually mean? How do I love myself? I don't know. So anyway, let me ask you, how do you love yourself, my dear friend?
And I think like when you think of self-love, some people might think it's like, oh, you're being selfish.
Yes.
You're not thinking about others. You're just thinking about yourself.
Yes.
And that's a myth.
Yes.
I would say that loving yourself, it's being kind to yourself.
Yes.
Is inviting acceptance and tuning in with that guidance. I feel like that's another aspect
yes.
of self-love.
Yes.
And it's being kind to yourself, and not even like if there's a thought that's coming in and it can feel like it's criticizing yourself. It's almost like there's this part of me that I don't really like, but then sending it love and acceptance. So, and the more you do that, the more I feel like, and for me, the more I become more whole.
Yes.
So it's, I know Louise Hay talks about mirror work. So I kind of, in the morning when I wake up, I kind of like just look, and then I maybe in the past I used to criticize different aspects.
Yes.
And now I'm just like looking, and I'm just saying good morning, internally, not out loud. And just kind of like, good morning, this is going to be a good morning. You're beautiful. You're amazing. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like a mini pep talk.
I love that.
And something that you always teach, that now I'm using it with my clients also, is writing on a sticky note.
Yes.
Something positive. So then now I have my clients, like in the session, I'm like, okay, let's write a couple of them right now. What would be a negative that you would say to yourself, and let's transform it into a positive. And I want you to put it on the mirror you're looking.
Yes.
If it's the mirror in your room or in the bathroom, somewhere where you can see it. So maybe it's not something that you read all the time, but it's kind of there, and it's impossible and hard to not see it.
Yes. I love that. I think I sometimes call that like sticky note therapy. It's like, I love that so much. I do that all the time. And I don't do it every day, but many days, if I'm struggling with a certain fear or insecurity or doubt about myself, I'll do exactly what you said. I will make an affirmation that addresses that and turns it into a positive. I remember Mike Dooley, he's a like spiritual growth author. I think I might have mentioned him to you before. He has many wonderful books, including a book called I think it's like Leverage the Magic of the Universe or something. And he talks about, he was starting to do some public speaking and he felt very nervous about it. And so he just kept saying the affirmation to himself, I am an amazing public speaker. I am an amazing public speaker. And eventually he did become an amazing public speaker. I think in part due to that, due to running that affirmation, that energy through him. I love that. I love everything you mentioned. I love the idea of giving your whole being a pep talk in the morning. That's so great. because so often we could do the opposite. I know sometimes I still do, even though I'm in this work. It's like a default, I think, sometimes for me to look in the mirror and be very critical of myself, physically or otherwise. So I love the morning pep talk. Like, let's get out of the shower and let's give our whole being a pep talk. We're awesome. We got this. I love that so much. And maybe just a little. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say.
No, I was gonna.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna share this idea about being your own best friend. Is that I think from my childhood, I would wake up in the morning and my mind would immediately go to, like, who do I need to please? Like, what do I need to do to make everybody happy in this household? And that's still very easy for me to get into that mode when I'm a single mom. And so when I wake up, it often is, okay, what do my children need? What does anyone else need who may be in the house? And I'm learning to try to wake up and in the beginning just think about myself, which is a really new practice for me. Like, what would serve me the best to do first, especially if I can wake up maybe a little earlier than my kids or something. And it sounds like so kind of elemental, but it's still a bit of a new practice for me to think about my own needs first, in relation to my children or my partner. It's still a new practice for me. What about you? Because I know you're married. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes. No, I was curious about, like, so, like, you have this practice of kind of like befriending yourself, but what are some other things that you're choosing yourself as your best friend, or as kind of.
Yeah, okay, that's such a good question. Okay, this is a really funny example, and I'm almost embarrassed to say it, so it means I need to say it. So just yesterday, I felt guided to sing and dance to a song I really like and post it on Facebook. And it sounds really funny, but I think I love to sing and dance. And I think I've kind of squashed that, thinking, I don't know, you're a therapist or you're a mom, like, you shouldn't be singing and dancing on social media or something. It's not appropriate or whatever. I think I had that limiting belief. So I posted this video, and then this sounds really funny, but I've been kind of watching it, actually several times since I posted it, and, like, okay, this sounds really funny, but, like, kind of like falling in love with myself as I watch it. I'm watching myself with love. Now, normally, I wouldn't do that. Normally, I have this amazing partner who you know very well, Sean Kelly, and he's amazing in every way, and he has an amazing YouTube channel, and it's very easy for me just to, like, watch his videos and, like, oh my God, he's so amazing. Look at him. He's so handsome. He's so smart. I love him so much, and just, mesmerized by him, which is great. But I just think there is a balance, and so it just sounds like a funny thing, but I'm appreciating myself too. Mm-hmm. Whether I'm, oh, look at me in that video, like, that's kind of cool, like, look at me doing that. So I think that's what I mean. It's like, that's new for me to, like, turn my attention to myself, I think is what I'm saying. My attention very easily goes outwards. very easily. And I'm learning to turn some attention to me and appreciate myself and love myself and even like watch myself sometimes. So I don't know. The whole thing sounds kind of funny, but it feels helpful.
And then it is, because in a way for me, like, it feels very like resonant, because I tend to play small, or I tend to play my old programming of being a good girl, being quiet. So I can, even though if there's a group and I kind of have ideas, or like I have something that I want to say, or like somebody's made a comment and I'm like, and I want to kind of like, let's not talk about that. Like, I can tend to not speak up because I don't want to like upset people, or but then the more you befriend yourself, and the more you see other people speaking their own truth,
Yes.
and it's kind of inspiring. It's almost like they give you a lighter,
Yes.
and then they help you light up your fire, and then out of the sudden you're out of your mind,
Yes.
in your thinking mind, and then you're more just speaking from that guidance.
Yes.
So it's, for me, it always kind of look at my trap of playing it small, and I think it's, and it sounds like it's for you too, for us women, and kind of growing up in our families, and like the programming was kind of, don't be too loud, don't dance, which honestly, I watched the video yesterday after you posted, and then I was happy seeing you being happy, and then at the same time I was wondering why I don't dance more, because I love to dance.
You love to dance,
so
too.
Then it
Yes.
inspired me today. It inspired me today too, as I'm doing laundry, which it's not the best for me to do. I hate it.
Yes.
And I shifted it by, I put music on my phone, and I was like, oh, Tassel was dancing yesterday. And I didn't videotape myself, but I'm like in the laundry room, and then I'm dancing, and I'm like, this feels good. And then out of the sudden, I'm like connected to myself, and I'm smiling, and then I'm coming downstairs to my husband, and I'm laughing, and he's like, what?
Yes.
I just feel good. So there's definitely something to say about when you're moving your body, and you're connecting to the music. Maybe it's the lyrics, but then almost like you're out of your rational mind, and then you're just letting your body flow. And then it's interesting how there's a music of your soul that starts singing also, and then other people externally are able to observe it too.
That is so true. Everything you said, I never totally could articulate what you just said, but yes, it takes you out of your thinking mind, and it seems like you're in your soul as you're dancing. The song of your, yes, totally. Dancing seems very magical to me. It's very transporting. I'm always in a better mood. Like a higher vibration. Okay, so to recap, this is the teacher in me. I taught English as a second language for years and years. Okay, so 3 things that we've talked about. Tuning out all the external voices and programming. Tuning into your guidance, and we shared some different guidance that practices that we use. And then 3, this idea of self-love, this practice of self-love, and being your own best friend. I just love that phrase, being your own best friend. I love that so much. It feels so important to be your own best friend. Like you got to start with yourself. Got to start with yourself to befriend yourself. Yeah. So I think that's probably good for this first episode. Does that seem good? Um, we
Yes,
wanted to
yes.
share an upcoming short afternoon, well, early evening, depending on where you are in the time zones, retreat that Cristina and I are going to be running, and it's going to be awesome. It's our first Say Yes to You retreat, and we're holding it on Saturday, August 14th. It's in a little over 4 weeks from now, and it's going to be on Zoom from 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to go over what we've talked about here more in depth and do practices with everybody on during the retreat, so that once you leave the retreat, you're going to be saying yes to yourself, and you're going to be tuning into your guidance, and you are going to be loving on yourself so much and being your own best friend in all these profound ways. And the investment is $99, and it's a 3-hour retreat, and it's going to be awesome. So anyone who's listening, we hope you will consider joining us for this first Say Yes to You retreat. And for, what's that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You must say yes to yourself.
You must say yes to yourself. Stop saying no to yourself. No more no's. Say yes to yourself. Say yes to your beautiful self. So I think we're making this a weekly show. That seems like our plan, as far as we know. Probably on Mondays, and maybe we will pick a particular time, but for now, I think we'll be back next Monday with another live stream. And I want to thank Sean Kelly, my partner, for running all the technical aspects of this for us. We thank him so much. And
Thank you for you.
Yes, super thankful. So I think that's it. And please, we read all the comments. If you have anything you'd love for us to talk about, any questions we can answer, please leave them in the comments. And please also subscribe to the You Are Your Own Hero channel. And there's going to be so many awesome shows on this channel. There's so much in the works that content that's coming up. So it's really exciting. So I think that's it.
Yes, and also if you scroll down below, you also can see our new podcast.
Oh, yes.
And an interview with Wolf, Dr. Chiffon, and with Dr. Tassel and Sean. And then the other interview is with me. And then there will be so many more that there will be coming.
Yes.
And if you wanna be part of the podcast, and please message us, and we will be very glad to interview you.
Absolutely. Yes. We basically have a You Are Your Own Hero tribe that is growing, and anyone who this resonates with, it's all about just being your own hero, as we've basically been talking about tonight in this show. Please join us. Please, our emails are below in the description. That's a good place to start for right now. But please come join our You Are Your Own Hero tribe. It's awesome. All right. So I am going to end this. And just so much love to everybody. And we look forward to seeing you again. Okay. Bye.